Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hey everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. What a day out in Ashburn yesterday. We had our first bold move by the Commanders front office with Jahan Dotson being traded in the division to the Philadelphia Eagles for draft compensation. Jahan in a fifth for a third-round pick and 2 seventh-round picks. All of the picks are in next year's draft. Commanders also picked up another kicker, Cade York, with a conditional seventh-round pick if he does actually make the team. But so he'll be here kicking this weekend. It'll be his opportunity. Former fourth-round draft pick in 2022 out of LSU by the Browns. Had a season where he made only 70% of his kicks and then wasn't kicking last year for Cleveland, but was on the roster. And so they've made room for him after, ironically, giving Dustin Hopkins a big long-term deal, which made him expendable. Anyway, back to Dotson and the big move of the front office of the offseason so far, taking a former first-round pick and only in his third year out of a group that doesn't feel like it has a ton of high-end talent. It was an interesting move, but if you've been kind of following the through line here through the first few weeks, month of camp, he just had not emerged as having a role. I never thought there was a scenario by which he would be cut. And so this was a logical conclusion if they didn't have a place for him to go. So yesterday, while at practice, I caught up and had my weekly visit with John Keim of ESPN and the John Keim Report. Time for our weekly Friday visit with John Keim, ESPN, John Keim Report. We're literally walking down to practice today on a day where the team makes their first, I don't know if controversial move is the right way to put it, but first bold move outside of a draft by trading Jahan Dotson, who's only in his third year. What's just your general reaction to it?
I mean, this is a substantial move, obviously. So the reaction is, I'm not surprised because we know that he did not stand out in camp. We know he kind of had to. We know that Dan Quinn talked about how they really hadn't settled on someone for that number 2 position, and he kind of said, well, he doesn't really classify him like that. But you know, it was his job to emerge there, right? That was set 100%. Up for him, 100% right. So, and he did not do so. So I'm not surprised by that. I still think he can play. I still think he has value to a team. And now if you're the Eagles, you surround him with a couple really good receivers. Maybe you can move him around a little bit in some motion, play him in the slot more. Then I think that's better. That may be well suited for him. But it also highlights for this team the underachieving aspect of their former number 1 picks in the past regime.
Let me stay on the Eagles for a minute. Are you surprised they traded him in the division?
Yeah, I am, because I think he could probably help them. And now I will say, we found out in reverse that when the Eagles-Redskins trades back in the day with McNabb and all that, didn't always quite work out for this team. So just, sometimes you always have to wonder, well, what does that team know and why are they willing to trade him in the division? So they didn't see a lot out here to say this is going to be a massive worry for them. However, I am surprised by that.
Yeah, I am too. On Jahan in general. So early in camp, he would do interviews. He was very accessible, and he would talk to all of us. And he was constantly bringing up things about his confidence and fitting in and finding a role. And I would look at him and I'd go, you're a first-round pick who scored 7 touchdowns with terrible quarterbacking a couple of years ago. What do you mean you don't have your confidence? And it really it started the process for me going, if he's saying this to me, what is he saying in the room to them?
Well, what are they seeing out of that too? So more so as much from what he's saying, but also what are they seeing on film if you're not playing with that level of confidence that you need? So yeah, and it's funny that you say that because we've talked about that. And then even after we talked about it, he said it again last week, I think. We're talking about, and sometimes it's a matter of having confidence in the system that it can utilize what you do best, etc. But when you don't have it, you can always see, you can tell when a guy is playing with confidence and the plays they're making because of that.
Yes.
And I don't think we did not see that this summer. We didn't see it a lot last year either. And I'm not sure why, because he can play. And I know he had some issues with the drops, but he does make some really nice catches and he can run after the catch. But we just didn't see that. And not just in the preseason games, Bram, we didn't see it really in practice.
Yeah. There's 2 points about him. Your point about and I felt this way too. how can he not have just been automatically the number 2 receiver here, just based on the depth at the position? And if he gets beat out, he gets beat out, but it would have been a competitive thing. That never materialized. And if you think about, like, McLaurin, nobody's questioning his position on this team, or Allen or Payne, who are major carryover players. Nobody's questioning that. Like, they've been in a very competitive camp, but there are some people that carried over that nobody's questioning what they were in the last regime to here. He was one of them, and I think it was surprising. Like, I'm not surprised that Jamin's had to earn a spot. I'm not surprised that Forbes has to kind of reintroduce himself to a new staff, but I didn't see that for Jahan. I thought he would slide right in and be number 2, number 3, whatever it is, and it just didn't happen.
I mean, I thought he'd at least have to prove, just as a, regardless of which the staff was here, right? He had to prove that he could elevate to a higher level as a number 2 receiver. But, going into camp, I didn't think his roster spot was in jeopardy from certainly making.
Did I?
But I
couldn't have convinced me that in May.
But I will say, as we moved on, how, like, when Adam Peters was in San Francisco, the 49ers got rid of a lot of players in that first year. So that kind of triggers that thought in your head, like, don't be surprised if. And, like, you wondered about guys like Forbes and Fedarian Mathis and Jahan as camp went on. Like, if he had come out and looked good right away, well, you're not wondering that because you know what he possibly can do. But when he didn't, it started to at least make you wonder, like, I don't think they're going to cut him. I never thought that.
No, because he had value. There's no way they were going to cut him. No. I feel the same way about Jamin Davis. If it took a turn in a direction where they just felt like he wasn't going to be on the team, and I guess that's TBD into next week, I still don't. I think they would try to trade him before they ever cut him.
Correct. Yeah, I never thought they'd try and cut him, but the trading is there. The other factor in this too is Luke McCaffrey's coming off his best showing of the preseason. I know it's only 2 games, but I thought he had a good game overall, and they can do some of the same things. Now, Jahan, they're different guys, but they play a similar spot and similar role. And then Zacchaeus' emergence, I guess I would say, also factors in.
Yeah.
But still, and this is, again,
he said something really interesting yesterday because he doesn't talk that much, and he did, Zacchaeus. And when asked about, like, opportunities for him, he just blurted out, I felt for a couple of years I've been ready for a bigger role. He's going to get it here now.
He's looked good.
Yeah.
It's funny because even little things, Bram, and this is where, it's funny because I asked someone here last week about does blocking, where does that factor in as the receiver role? Like, because obviously you got to catch the ball, they wanted to play with urgency and all that. But at some point, to make certain plays, you've got to block. And one thing
this is where Diami stands out.
This is where Diami stands out, but I also think it's where McCaffrey stands out. And then yesterday, I'm watching Zacchaeus do a really nice job with some blocks as well. So that's not a strength of Jahan. So not that he can't block, you're going to trade him, but I think when you add up the total package, it made him it made others maybe just as attractive to them as Jahan may have been.
I mean, just earlier this week, to your point, and I mean, like, I don't like to talk a lot about formations. They've been going out of their way to hide stuff, and I know they don't really want me talking about a lot of it, but it was open to the public, to us, all of us. I'll bring this one up. They ran a wheel route to Eckler right around Diami. Like, it's an acknowledgement of, we know what we got out there on the edge with him as a blocker down the field. He's been tough, a willing participant in special teams. And I've looked at him and I go, this is why he's getting these opportunities. Because he plays the style. He's an all-around football player. Will he end up having a bazillion catches? I don't know. But I think they trust him as a physical player who's going to, as they like to say, bring it on the outside.
So the other factor, too, then, to that point, if Jahan's not starting and playing on a receiver, how does he help you? So if Zacchaeus isn't doing it, maybe he can help as a returner. Same with Jamison Crowder. Byron Pringle, if he makes it, can be a returner. Diami can play on special teams as well. Jahan doesn't do any of that. Now, I know they work in the punt returner. We've never seen him back there. So that's another thing that you throw into this. If he's not starting for you as a receiver, how does he help? And the answer is he really doesn't unless somebody gets hurt. So, I think you add it all up, and it's we saw the flashes the last couple of years of him. I don't want, and there's still things I think he can do. And I think, they don't use a lot of motion in this offense. I think he's probably better suited for an offense that runs a lot of motion. And, so will the Eagles do that with him? And again, you're surrounded by A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert at tight end. You have more things to work with up there, so he could probably be more productive up there just by what's around him.
The other thing that was very telling was there's very few carryovers on the staff, but the receivers coach is one of them.
Right.
And the fact that he couldn't make it out of that room when there's somebody here who knows him and he's not introducing himself to a new coach, That was very telling here too.
That's true. And, Bobby Ingram, I had a conversation with him in the spring when we met with some of the assistants, and some of it was about like play strength, right? And just how there was a play they were excited about in the spring that Jahan had because of the way he got off the line of scrimmage. Well, he hadn't had, that was supposed to have been a focus of his this offseason because it's something he hasn't really focused on in the past. And I don't think we saw evidence out here. And if you're Bobby Ingram, you can see this is where he was at last year. He worked on this, and this is where he's at now. I don't think you saw a lot of improvement in that area. And so they had a good, for some of these players, their measuring stick is from when they got here. At least with that position, their measuring stick is where was he at last year, where's he at now?
Yeah.
So I think he gave him a better barometer of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, and last thing on this, I really do, in Quinn's world, positive attitude, wanting to be part of something productive, buying in, it matters to him. That's obvious in year one. And secondarily, and I've just been around this too long, the second I hear a corner or a receiver publicly talking about confidence or ability, and this is what I don't hear from Forbes actually, which is why I'm a little more positive and willing to buy into, give this a shot here with him.
Jamin.
Yeah, and Jamin too, but give this a shot here. They've had a rough go for a year or a couple of years, depending on which player you're talking about, but they're all in to try to get better. The coaches see this and they're supporting them. With Jahan, I didn't feel that. And especially at those outside positions, receiver or corner, when I hear one of them talking about that they're shaken or their confidence is in question, I don't know, man. This sport is not for that. It's going to be tough to come back. I've been around too long and I've seen it too long. The egos need to exist on some level for these guys to succeed, because if you don't have it or you don't believe in yourself, you're going to have a very, very, very hard time in this league.
So I will say, every player at some point, a lot of them lose confidence to a degree, right? They're human. But it's whether do you admit it or not. And I think the hard part too is you can, if I'm a player and I have a bad year, you can say, yeah, my confidence was shaken at this point last year, but I'm always talking about that if I've gotten to the other side.
Yeah.
I'm not going to admit that, yeah, my confidence still kind of sucks because, that's just not what happens. And especially at those positions, because most of them are, it's a one-on-one battle out there. So if your confidence is shaken, you're playing that way. And you have to play at a certain urgency with a certain speed in this league to survive. And if you're admitting, and I can't get inside his head to know truly where that was at. I know he brought it up a lot. But if you don't have it, you just can't play as fast as you and with the urgency that these guys want.
Yeah, I mean, there was a play the other day in the preseason game where, it looked like an overthrown pass and his legs got caught up with a backup corner and they both tumbled and it was, inadvertent contact. So no flag was going to be called. But if you go back and watch, you see his break off the line is just not it's not his best. And I'm watching this and I'm going, this sport is highly coordinated. You have to do things at an extraordinarily high level over and over and over. And if you know that you don't have this role or you're trying to figure it out and you can't display that against backup players, you're going to have a hard time convincing people that you're going to have a big role here.
Right. And again, I think these guys are in a year where, if you don't think these guys fit, just rip the Band-Aid off now.
Yeah, I agree.
And get build picks for the future, because this year is still about building for the future. They are far from a finished product. And anybody who thinks there's going to be this massive turnaround because the Texans did it last year, I think it's not that it can't happen.
Jaden would have to be astronomically ahead of schedule and really, really, really good for
and
that
not
to
just
happen.
Not just
and
him.
I don't want to put that pressure on him. It's not fair.
They don't have Willie Anderson in the pass rushers that Houston has, so it's a different, and they don't play in the same division, so it's
that's
different.
The biggest point.
That's a huge point.
Yeah.
So there's
Indianapolis was resetting with a rookie quarterback who got hurt in the beginning of the year. Tennessee was totally resetting. All they had to have was Jacksonville be average, and they had a shot, and that's how it worked out. I don't think that's happening in this division this year.
So if you're this team, you're still looking with an eye to the future. So now you've picked up, and I know they gave up one pick, but you get back 3, you get another third-round pick. You can now have ammo to move up more in the draft if you want to, or to make another move if you want to. So I think, if I'm them, I'm still keeping an eye to the future, and that's what this is. Because if you don't think he's going to fit, not just this year, but in the future, especially for a guy at his age, because in a couple of years you'd have to pay him, then you move on.
Yeah.
And if I'm them, I don't know. Based on what we saw this summer, I can't sit here and say this is going to kill them. This isn't Brandon Ayuk leaving the 49ers. This is a guy who showed some things, who I think can play, but he has a combined 84 catches in 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about losing a Pro Bowl player at this point. So,
Are you at all trying to connect dots that this means this team will go after Brandon Ayuk now that they've made room, quote unquote, for another player to come in here?
Well, who are they still giving up?
I don't know.
You're not giving up picks. The Niners
No.
aren't taking picks. So if you're going to do that, I think the same issue still exists. There's two things. One,
Yeah, the Niners aren't fire sailing him.
No,
now.
no.
They've held firm that they want 2 first-round picks or some kind of massive return for him.
They at this point, they want an impact player. Who's the impact player here that you're going to give up? Now, there's only one that I think they would take, and it's Terry McLaurin. So,
and if you're the Commanders, why are you doing that?
You're not. And the other thing is then, does Adam Peters of San Francisco, the 49ers do not value him at a certain monetary point.
Yes.
Adam Peters was in San Francisco. Like, I think there may be a shared assessment of the...
I'm on board with that. I've been saying this for months. Every time this comes up, I go, I think he's a very good player, but I don't think he's Justin Jefferson. There's a difference.
No, there is. And so that's why I say, no, I don't think this is... I mean, if this happens, I'd be surprised because, again, that means you're giving up McLaurin. And is Ayuk probably better than McLaurin?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Marginally.
Yeah. But is it worth that much? Plus, then you're going to have to pay him a certain amount. That's where it gets hard, and you're going to have.
Are
to
you ready to have receivers that are making $75 million a year? Because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Or $65 to $70 million a year.
If I'm them, you can find another guy in the offseason, maybe draft a guy, which and now the hard part is we don't know how long that laundry list is going to be in the offseason to know what else are you going to need? Are you going to need tackles? Are you going to need corners? Those are expensive positions.
Yeah.
So that's why it'd be great for them if Brandon Coleman came through because now you can scratch off an expensive position.
I got to tell you, if that actually works out, that is going to be an incredible outcome for this team. If they get a third-round pick who can play left tackle that they really like and is productive on a rookie contract for 4 years, do you have any idea how much flexibility that's going to be for them in this window with Daniels on a rookie contract?
For sure. And that's why, and it also allows you then to go attack other positions that you need and maybe get 2 other guys at other spots versus 1 at tackle. So that would be a huge advantage to have that. But again, then it comes down to do they have the corners? But I think getting extra picks, it gives you some flexibility, whether in the draft, in the offseason to make trades, whatever. So I'm not surprised by this move.
The other day when I was walking around just talking to people, I just kind of blurted out, I think 3 to 5 players are on other teams right now that are going to end up here next week. The kicker's already happened, whether it's going to end up being Cade York or not, because they did a conditional trade for him, but he was inaccurate. He's got a big leg, but he was inaccurate. So he's going to have to come in here and prove it. If he makes the roster, great, but obviously he's going to be a different kicker than there was the last few weeks. I'm staring at the corner position to see if something pops up. Now I'm suddenly ears are perked about receiver if something pops up. I think a veteran running back, if it pops up, could be something they look at. What are you watching after cutdown day for people, or at least position groups that they might be watching?
Offensive line depth. That would be one. I think cornerback is certainly another, and veteran running back would be one. I think receiver will be interesting depending because they've already brought in some of those guys. Byron Pringle, Martavis Bryant. Now, that's who knows if that experiment will work out. But but yes, I think that's another. I don't know that there's the only spot where I would be surprised by is D-line and probably linebacker.
Yeah.
Because I think and safety, well, they just brought a safety in today, but a safety would be another spot because they have pretty good depth there. But I think
they actually have hard decisions at safety and tight end, and therefore I wouldn't see somebody coming in here. I think that they're trying to figure out who are they actually releasing at those spots.
Agreed with that. And but I do think O-line, you should always be looking for them, and then in corner, you should always be looking for them as well.
All right, let me ask you about a couple players that I wonder about. Derek Forrest, do you think he's safe here?
No, I don't. Safe? No. Does he have a shot? Of course. But I think then it depends on, do you keep 5 or do you keep 6 safeties? 6 is a lot. And I know in San Francisco they never kept that many. Quinn, I think, has, but Dallas would do some funky things with its final roster and then reshape it 2 days later. The hard part is, so you got Quan Martin and then Jeremy Chin are your starters. Percy Butler has been firmly as a third. Yesterday, Dan Quinn talked about Jeremy Reeves being next level as a special team player, and they love Tyler Owens. So I just think it's hard to know where would he be your 6th guy, and would you keep 6? But he can play, and that would be one that would hurt. I just wonder though, He missed last year with the injury. He's had a couple of issues during camp with injuries. So is that a factor? I don't know, but I think is safe. No, I don't know that Jeremy Reeves is safe, except that what Quinn said really kind of makes you think, okay, if he considers him a first level special teams player, he probably is safe, and he's a Pro Bowl special teamer. But again, coming off an injury.
But do you want that special teamer, or do you want someone like Forrest, who you probably trust more, thinks plays your style in 11 on 11 defense?
I don't know how much they trust him. So I don't know. I don't know that. And I don't know, has he been out here enough to build that trust?
He missed a lot of time.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know that he's been out here enough to build that trust with them yet. So I think that's the hard part to know. I think he plays a good physical game. He can help on special teams. So if they kept 6, I get it. Then you're keeping one less somewhere else. But I can get if they try to, because they like each guy and they feel like each guy can help. I'm not cutting Tyler Owens.
Cole Turner, Chris Rodriguez. Here's a couple carryovers.
Yeah.
What do you think of them?
Cole Turner's worked so much among the first 4. I don't know that they keep 4. And I think if they keep 4...
That's the question, because we know who the 3 are.
Right, we know the 3.
Ertz, Sinnott, Bates are locks. Correct. So do they keep 4 is a question.
And I know they really like Colson Yankoff. Now, Yankoff, you could sneak onto the practice squad.
No doubt.
Because he hasn't done much. To me, they've kind of hidden him a little bit in the preseason. And... he's out, so I don't think anybody pick him up. Cole Turner probably gets picked up. He's played a lot.
Yeah, I think Cole Turner, if you cut him, would get picked up by somebody.
But I don't think
somebody would pick up Yankoff.
No, they would. I don't think they would. But I don't think he's safe, and I don't think Rodriguez is safe either. I don't know that he fits what they do, and I'm not sure he's very good enough on special teams for them to justify.
It's another spot where I'm watching his running back next week, because obviously Eckler, B-Rob are the top 2. McNichols came in here. He hasn't really flashed, but he's veteran. Rodriguez, I don't know if he's a fit. They like this Michael Wiley guy. They're hoping he'll pop stuff, but he's undrafted free agent. You can get him on the practice squad. Well, is there somebody that is a fit for them that pops up? Because all of a sudden they're moving Kaz Allen to running back because they're looking for something there, some kind of juice at that position, and that's why I'm watching that one next week.
Kaz is also, to me, a gadget player for them at running back.
That's what I think.
That's what he is, and he's a guy that if he can help, if they feel like he can be a help on special teams as a kick returner, then he has a shot. And that would supplant Rodriguez. I think McNichols makes it ahead of him, right? So, I think that's going to be certainly one to watch. But I liked Rodriguez last year. I don't know that they're enthralled with him.
Yeah.
And so I think I definitely wonder about his future.
I just think about this offense. I don't think we've seen a lot, but from what I have seen, is he going to fit in that kind of role? And this is a scheme issue question with someone like that.
I think so, and that's why I would certainly put him on the endangered species list for this roster.
All right, John, almost done with the preseason. Amazing. 2 weeks away from the regular season.
I'll be so glad we'll get to the point where we can stop talking about what they might be and let's go see. Finally.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll revisit the Commanders in a little bit, but up next, I got up close and personal with the new head coach of the Washington Spirit, Jonatan Giraldez, who has an outrageous overseas international record as he takes over a team that has a real shot at winning an NWSL championship, and we'll get back into league play this weekend when they host Kansas City. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. The Washington Spirit are going to get back into the NWSL season this weekend. They're taking on Kansas City. So these are 2 of the top 3 teams in the league as they come off the Olympic break, restart the season, and head towards a home stretch here where the playoffs are kind of right around the corner. Both of these teams are going to be there, and one of them may end up winning a championship the way this season has gone so far. In the interim, the story of the Spirit is really unusual this year. They had hired the head coach, Jonatan Giraldez, from Barcelona, but he was not going to come to the team until he finished Barca's most latest season. And so he didn't really show up until a couple of months ago. And the first time that he actually coached the team was in their last match against Bay, the one right before the Olympic break. In the meantime, one of his top lieutenants, Adrian Gonzalez, was coaching the team, and they brought in a whole bunch of new players. They had a lot of rookies. They traded away some of their veterans, brought in some draft picks, and it's all kind of worked out for them to get to this point where they're extremely competitive and potentially vying for a title here. And Giraldez takes over. with a background that is undeniably unbelievable. In his first 58 matches in Barcelona, he didn't lose. Losing has been extremely rare. So as this team kind of circles the wagons, starts kind of anew, brought in some international players to bolster the roster, I had a chance to sit down with Giraldez to talk about his past, talk about the present, what he thinks about with the future, and how he's kind of conceiving all of this as he takes over for a stretch run with this Spirit group that could win a championship. You've been here for, a couple of months now. You coached the last match before the Olympic break, and there was a friendly this past weekend. What do you make of the Spirit now as you kind of get started in earnest with them?
It's a difficult situation to manage in the beginning because I only was on the bench for one game, and then you have a big break, between. So everything what we were doing so far, it was to prepare again the most important game against Kansas. So not having the whole roster, it's not easy sometimes because you need to adjust many things specific in terms of position. But my feeling right now is okay. I think we were patient in terms of game plan, develop the players, the individual players, and that is what we try to do. The last 8 weeks, try to help the players to develop and improve the level, modify some roles, some specific roles in some specific players. So I think right now we are in a good shape. I know the performance in the last games was not good enough, but was not the focus. We were not competing to win that game. We were competing to prepare the most important game, which one is coming.
So when you accepted the job to come here, what did you know about this league, and what have you learned about it since coming over here?
I didn't know a lot. But yeah, for sure, Spanish players, Spanish coaches, the last seasons, this feeling is it's time more players and coaches are coming here. So I know how important is the NWSL. It's not so important Shield Cup because my feeling is, okay, in the second part of the season, all teams are competing to achieve the best possible level in the most important part of the season. And I think, in Spain is... you have to show a great performance during the whole season to deserve to win the championship. So I think it's challenging for me because you have to adapt in terms of load. When do you want to achieve your highest performance? So I know right now it's coming. Right now is the moment that we have to keep improving, keep growing to get the final season in the best possible shape. And I think this is interesting because it's totally different to Europe, especially...
Stylistically, it's different than what was being played over there?
There?
Yeah. Is it different stylistically here in the NWSL versus what's being played in Europe?
Yes, it is. It's different. There, you have to, here you have to pay attention a lot on the transition. You have to pay attention a lot on long balls. You have to pay attention to individual skills, especially the strikers. Here I think there are the best strikers in the world. So there in Spain, I think you need to be a little more, technical with the ball, pay more attention to the position. But for me in the end is have a good balance in terms of position, pressing, and everything too. I think it's important to win, but here I think the rhythm of the game is higher than Spain, and that is being challenging to me.
So everybody knows what your record was over there. You come here with these numbers that are outrageous, that you'd won your first 58 matches over there. You lost very rarely. How do you kind of think about that as you change leagues and bring this resume with you? But obviously this is all very new.
Yeah, it's completely new for sure. But I personally have to face the competition thinking that we want to win everything. We have to win everything. This is the mentality before each game. Then maybe you can have a good, bad day. The opponent is better than you. Okay, that can happen. But the way to face the training and the competition for me is the same. I am not gonna change anything because I think the desire how we face the competition must be highest. But in the end, I have to cope with the feeling that maybe we are gonna lose more games than I lost in my past. But for me, one of the reasons to come here is, to be more competitive myself. The feeling when you have to suffer a lot to win each game, I think will be challenging for me. It's one of the reasons that I decide to join Washington, because I know you have not easy games every single week. So for me, I have to make sure that the 90 minutes must be, it's mandatory for me, be connected, try to have the players and have a good management of emotion, especially when you are losing. When you are not able to have that feeling so many times, it's easier, to move forward. But here for me, it's a good situation, a good position to face the defeat as a positive way to keep learning and to keep growing.
What do you mean by that? I may need to suffer more to win like I used to. Can you kind of explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, look, for me, when you are training, when you are competing, if everything is like equal, it's easier that you have to demand much more yourself. When you are winning 3, 4, 5, 6-0 easy, maybe you can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 45 minutes relaxed, because it's not so necessary show a highest possible performance. And in my past, for example, if we were winning 3, 4, 5-0, I decided to make changes. I was thinking on the next game, not on the same that I was playing. So this way of face the competition here is different. You have to face the game just thinking of that game, not thinking about load, about share volume, it's just thinking about that. So for me, have that feeling make me better coach and even better person, because when you have to manage your emotions, you have to show what you want to say when you are winning, when you are drawing, when you are losing. So that's for me. I mean, I am 32 years old. I'm young. Maybe in 10, 15, 20 years I said you the thing, but right now I need that. I need the feeling that I have to suffer to win that games, because in the end I think it's the better for me, for my development. Being selfish, is what I need right now, because in my past I won a lot. I want to keep winning, I want to keep winning, but have other feelings to face the competition in the way that you have to be focused 100%, just thinking of that game.
Obviously, though, your record, it's not an accident. So clearly you have a very high acumen for this. What about it stuck to you immediately that you knew you would be good as a coach?
Look, for me, I'm not thinking about that. I promise you. For me, the players are the most important thing. I always put the players in front of everyone, because they have to play. They have a lot to do. They have to play. I just need to help them in the process and be the most possible culture competitive in terms of competitiveness. I need to spread my desire for the competition. I think for me that is one of the most important things. In my past, I try to have face the training with with the desire to compete in any drill. So for me, putting the players in front of me always, I need to spread my desire for the competition into the competition. I love the way that we have to compete, but not only talking about the games, it's just at the same time speak about trainings. And for me, I know I am here because I won a lot on my past, and for sure I had a beautiful players and a good staff, and I think I could help at the same time, in the way that the tactical position are good to attack and defense, and at the same time for me in the spread that feeling for football in Europe, soccer here in America. I want to give my best, to achieve the highest possible performance playing.
It sounds like to me a little bit like, obviously, this makes you extremely credible, the record that you have, but you don't want it to hamper the players themselves. They need to go through their own process here and not expect that what happened there is definitively going to happen here.
No, it's just what I said to the players every day. Be focused on training, be focused on improve. The small details are key for me in the process, in the develop. And I never like to speak about the past. I just want to analyze what happened yesterday to be better today, and show to the players the clips that is what we have to do, that's what the way to keep improving, and face every day with that feeling, get up every week, every morning saying, what I should do today to be a better player in the end of the training. That is what I try to do, and spread to the players to understand which is the role they have and what is the character they have and what they can improve. And then when you face the competition, understanding that the most important thing is what you are doing, I think you are winning a lot.
Yeah.
Then you can win, you can lose, but every day you have to face the training thinking, what can I do better today? In the pitch, out of the pitch, a good recovery for be ready for the next training. If you have cramps in the 75, 80 minutes, what happened? What did you do yesterday? Did you have a good hydration, supplementation, whatever? Everything for me is important. In high performance training, you need to achieve your best in the whole areas. So I never speak about my past. I just speak about what you have to do every day to be the best. And then the competition will say if you are the best or you are not.
Let's just talk about the recent past then. Adrian Gonzalez did a fantastic job with this team. This was a really unusual situation. There were a lot of trades. It's a very different roster. A lot of young players were playing. The expectations were in the middle somewhere. I don't think people knew what to expect. He comes in. We know you're coming. At some point, it felt like, let's wait and see what happens. And yet here this team is. Can you kind of talk about the job that he did while we were waiting for you to come to the organization?
Yeah, for sure. I was working in Barca, 100% focused on that, but I had free time sometimes. I tried to speak with Adri almost every day, at least to have a good report. I remember in the beginning of the preseason here to set the base to work, in terms of training, how do we have to be organized in terms of staff, in terms of players, because I wanted to arrive here making sure that everything was under control in the way that I think is the best to training and competing. And I have to say thank you, because Adri and the rest of the staff, they did a really good job. They qualified, they are in a good position. And right now I'm being here, try to, improving the small details about that, because being far away is not easy. For me, it was not easy. I have to be honest with you. It was not easy for me, because in the end, you are watching the games, you are watching the training. It's like, maybe I should, but in the end, you have to give your confidence in the person that you are managing so far. And Adri did an amazing job. And right now, I think he's helping me a lot to keep growing as a team, give me advice about the players, about the staff. And this, I think this is not about me. It's what we have to do to the players to be the best.
What I hear from you, though, is details really matter, all of them. So that what's important to you, it sounds like, is to put as many processes in place so that you have answers to all the issues that will come down the road.
Yeah. Sometimes, for me, it's a way to coach. Sometimes coaches just talk about intensity, about tactical.
Yeah.
For me, everything is important. And the small details, which is your body shape when you are closing down, which is your angle of pressure, what the pass means when you are playing slow, when you are playing harder, that small details for me are very, very important. What I say in terms of game model is about the communication with the ball and without the ball. So that is the base to build important things. And everything what I am doing so far is about that. So the small details for me are key in the process to give tools to the players to improve, Sometimes the situation in the games are different, but in the end they have to take their own decision. So the experience that you are having in training will give you the chance to take the best decision in the game. So I want to make sure every training that the players feel like, okay, I am training, just not physically, is give tools to the players to find the solution during the game. So when I am analyzing, I don't care the result. I am just thinking about what we should do in this action. So we have IDP coaches. I have Adri, I have Tony, just analyzing the players, the individual performance. Because what I consider in my past, in my experience, when you are working on what you have lack, what you can do better.
Yeah.
Analyze all of that, the technical execution, the tactical execution, and how are you involved around the game plan, but just putting the focus on you. So everyone who is working around the players specifically, for me, means a lot, and that's the small details.
Okay. Did you watch the Olympics? And you've got 4 members of this team that came back with a gold medal. What do you make of what happened in Paris?
Yeah, I think they were the best team. They deserved the victory, the gold medal. I'm very happy for them because I know how they are working here. All the staff, all the players are very, very, very happy because it's a big achievement. That is not easy. Sometimes people forget too quick what they did, and that in Spain is very usual. You win, but you have to keep winning. the next tournament. And sometimes we have to enjoy about what we did. And here my feeling is they are enjoying, they are being aware that they did an amazing job. Time to enjoy, but now time to be back with the team and try to help us to achieve our goals.
I want to ask you about two specific players. One, Trinity Rodman, who had a terrific tournament. We know here what level of player she is. What do you think her potential is as you kind of watch her matriculate through her career?
Yeah, she impressed me a lot in terms of physical condition. She's powerful. In the first meters, she's unstoppable. The tournament she did was one of the best players in the squad for sure. She was crucial in every single game. So I want to help her to keep improving, to keep growing, and for sure try to achieve the best possible performance in the end of the season, because right now, for sure, she will be tired, mentally, physically, but we need to, recover as soon as possible that feeling to help the team, because I think she is one of the most important players in the team, but she needs to be the best or one of the best in the end of the season.
That was only a portion of my interview with head coach Jonatan Giraldez as the Spirit gets set for their match this weekend, Sunday at noon at Audi Field against Kansas City as they restart the NWSL season. If you want to hear the entire interview, download the Spirit Spotlight podcast, and you'll hear more of this interview as well on our pregame show on Sunday on ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Up next, back to the Commanders and the Patriots and a final preview for the final preseason game. This is the Bram Weinstein Show on ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Welcome back. As we get set for the final preseason game, and obviously what was the really big move yesterday, the trade of the former first-round pick Jahan Dotson, who is only in year 3 but never really emerged with a role that seemed to enlighten a spot or clarify a spot for him on the offense. I think it's time to kind of think about what is it in terms of fit that they're looking for here, and strength down the field, blocking ability, and some of the intangibles that are kind of what this coaching staff seems to be preaching in terms of competition, strength, fight. That became evident yesterday because we talked to Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator of the team, yesterday after practice. This was a pre-planned meeting, but of course, he got hit with all the Jahan Dotson questions because Dan Quinn didn't actually speak to the media. But he did address this idea of what are the attributes that this team is looking for when they're looking for a wide receiver in light of Jahan Dotson's not here.
A lot of competition in the wide receiver room. From your vantage point, what do you think is the most important, 2 or 3 traits that, your starting group needs to have?
DQ style of play. They want to be physical and play hard without the ball. I think that's what we preach is everybody's going to run routes and make catches at this level, but how do you play without the ball? And you look at some of the top teams in the league, or it's the Chiefs or the 49ers, when they transition a block, when their teammates have the football, that's kind of the secret sauce that takes you to the next level. And we've been preaching that, and those guys have done a good job responding.
So that's what they're looking for. And they're looking for explosiveness. And that's why I think you need to take a look at where Kaz Allen is on this team. So all of a sudden, Jahan Dotson is not here. They've been working Allen as a running back who had these ridiculous records in California as a running back, but clearly doesn't have the size to be a primary back. So they're looking at him as someone who might be an explosive change of pace, someone who they can use in a number of different ways. And they've been over the last couple of weeks, if you kind of just watch what's going on here, you go, all right, how are they going to find a role for him? If he's not going to be the prominent punt returner, which I think they want him to be, but they want to find a way to keep him because they lack explosiveness, what do they do? And they started moving him into the running back room, and you go, okay, well, what does that mean for guys like Jeremy McNichols or Chris Rodriguez or Michael Wiley, the undrafted rookie free agent, who they seem to like a little bit and want to give a shot to? And then you go, okay, wait a minute. If you're going to earmark a spot for someone like Kaz Allen, maybe you just need to make room in the other position group as well. And so everything is starting to open up here a little bit. A couple things I would look for this weekend, not much in terms of the starters playing at all against New England. In fact, I'd be very surprised if you see any prominent players who are relatively safe to make the 53-man roster to actually play this weekend against New England, but there are a few names that are worth watching. I think they should get some run. The 5th-round pick, Dominic Hampton, who's kind of moved into a linebacker position. Let's see how that works out for him. Tyler Owens has really made a name for himself at the safety position. Does Jeremy Reeves get some run out there? Because is he fighting for a spot? Is Derek Forrest fighting for a spot? I'm not really totally sure because the safety room is very, very crowded. The tight ends at the bottom end of it. Do they keep Cole Turner? Do they like Colson Yankoff enough? Do they only keep 3 tight ends? Hard to tell. And the running backs. Could one of them, Michael Wiley, Austin Jones, maybe McNichols, maybe Allen, prove their value in that room? Or is that a spot that potentially next week after cuts happen, does the team look for some talent on the open market to try to fill up the running back room as well? Hard to know, hard to say at this point. All right, tune into the game. It is an NBC primetime coverage game, 8 o'clock at night. Me, London Fletcher, Logan Paulson will be on the call. Ray Watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.